Warriors, this is the Spartan Underground. And now, your host, James 300 Foster.
Wow, I feel like we came in a little hot with that intro. It sets a big precedence here for the podcast that I'm going to do my best to live up to. I want to thank Tony Torres for helping record the voiceover for that, and also Danny Thrasher for the awesome theme music. This is the very first podcast, guys. I'm really excited. I've got my friend Keith Owen on here. He's a third-degree black belt under Master Pedro Sauer. It's an awesome interview with a lot of great takeaways. The podcast itself doesn't have any official sponsors yet, so I'm open to applications for sponsors, but I would like to take a moment to thank some of my longtime sponsors. Show You Roll, the manufacturers of the best gis on the market. BJJ Library, some of the finest jiu-jitsu instruction online you can come by, featuring Professor Saulo Ribeiro and his brother Shanji Ribeiro, as well as a lot of guest instructors. A really awesome site. Tape Armor for taping your banged up fingers when you've been doing jiu-jitsu as long as I have. Kristen's Photo for your photography needs. She does a lot of different jiu-jitsu tournaments all across the U.S. Awesome stuff. Mission 22, helping end the war on veteran suicide. Noas Defions, another great organization, helping veterans and our servicemen and women. And the We Defy Foundation, another awesome one that really seeks out to help provide support for our veterans. And I'm really proud to have all of their support. And I really hope you guys enjoy the first podcast. Without further ado, here is Professor Keith Owen. I'm here with my good friend, the Rhino, Keith Owen. How you doing today, Keith?
James, I'm fantastic, man. Thanks for having me on your program.
Awesome. I'm honored to have you on here as one of my first guests. And why don't you give everybody a little information about your background, just for those out there who may not know who you are?
Okay. Well, James, I've been studying jiu-jitsu for, 23, 24 years, a long time. I'm a third-degree black belt under Professor Pedro Sauer. Actually, it's Master Sauer. We always call him Professor, but he's an eighth-degree black belt under Hickson and Elio Gracie. So I'm very proud to be in his lineage. He's a great man, and I've been, studying it a long time, so... And this is a great honor to be your first guest.
Well, I'm honored to have you here. And what got you into jiu-jitsu? Because I know you've been doing jiu-jitsu for a very long time, but you've also been in martial arts for a long time prior to jiu-jitsu. So kind of what made you make that switch to jiu-jitsu?
Well, I was a black belt in Kung Fu when I first started hearing about this jiu-jitsu thing. I was reading Black Belt magazine, and there was an article from this Kempo black belt who challenged Royler Gracie to one of those Gracie challenge matches. And I read that, and I went, oh, wow, this sounds so awesome. Because at the time, my ground game sucked. And when I was doing Kung Fu, I didn't know anything, but, I was a big fan of pro wrestling, and I thought it was a lot of fun ever since I was a kid. And when I was doing sparring with people, I would when they showed me their back, man, I would wrap my arm around their neck and then take them down, and then I would just automatically put my hooks in there, and I would make them give up. And it got to be so regular that my Kung Fu instructor got pissed at me and told me I couldn't do that anymore.
That's funny.
And so then when I saw this article, I was like, oh, wow, this is my missing piece of my game. I want to be able to know how to defend myself on the ground. And this was back in like 1993 when I saw this article. And so nothing happened. and this is going to get long-winded, James. I don't mean to, but the story I think is really awesome for my development. My job was I sold TV advertising, and I went into this electronics store one day, and I'm in there, and I'm just waiting for the owner, and out of the blue, man, just out of the blue, a dude walks up to me, and he looks at me. I didn't know this guy at all, and he looked at me, and he didn't know me, and he said, "Hey, have you ever heard of the Gracies?" And since I had heard that article, and he said Gracie, I said, "Yeah, man, I've heard of them." And he goes, "Hey, I have this VHS tape with all these fights on it. You want to watch it?" And I was like, okay. And, since it was an electronics store, we went over to a VCR. I hope like some of the listeners know what a VCR is. And I went over and we started watching this, and the Gracies were kicking the crap out of people, man. It was one fight after another, and they were putting the choke on that I was putting on in my Kung Fu class all the time, and I was going, holy crap, I got to learn this. And what it said to me was, when you are ready for something, it will make its appearance. And that's what this guy did. And so I said, "Hey, dude," and his name was Dean Heileman. And I said, "Hey, if I find out where to train, will you train with me and we'll start working on this?" And he said, "Absolutely, man. I want to learn this." So I started looking around, and I can't remember if the internet was even happening at the time. Maybe it was. But I started researching on where to go to be able to learn jiu-jitsu. And what happened was there was only like 3 places that I could find. There was the Gracie Academy in California, and then there was Renzo Gracie and Craig Kukuk in New York, and then there was this guy named Pedro Sauer in Utah. And I was like, well, I'd much prefer to go to a place that was close. And I live in Idaho, and so Salt Lake City is not very far away from where I was living at the time. So I went down there, and I started taking lessons, and that's a funny story too. And I'm just gonna, since I have you held hostage here to this interview, I'm gonna tell you just exactly.
By all means,
I'm gonna tell you just exactly how that went. It was so weird. I gave him a call down at Academy, and I found out later on that the Academy was in this just Bolden Levitt Insurance Company. It was in the back of Bolden Levitt Insurance, and it was this room when they had mats, and they put mats down. And I had called up, and Professor Sauer wasn't in at the time, but there was this other guy there, and he was a brown belt at the time, and his name is Casaca Munoz. And Casaca Munoz now is like a 5th degree black belt or something like that, but he was a brown belt at the time. And I said, "Hey, I'd like to come down for some private lessons if I could, and I'll pay you." And he was like, "No, I don't have a lot of time." And so I'm on the phone begging him, "Please, just, I'll pay you money, whatever." And finally he agreed. And I said, "Oh, thank you very much, man. I totally appreciate that." So then at the agreed upon time, I went down there. I went to Bolden Levitt, and I'm waiting outside, and Professor Munoz is Brazilian, and he was on Brazilian time that day, and I didn't know, I thought, oh crud, he's not going to meet me here, and I was almost getting devastated. And then he just drives up, and he says, "Hey man, how you doing?" And we started talking, and then he started giving me the private lessons, and then we started grappling. This is the funny part. He's a small guy too, and I'm a black belt in Kung Fu, man. I'm a badass, and when I look back, I was simply an ass, but I thought I was pretty tough, James.
Right.
And so he taught me this stuff, and I was like, holy crap, this is so good. And then he said, "Hey, you want to grapple? You want to roll?" Okay, and I didn't really know what rolling was. I just thought we were wrestling. So, in my typical form of a new guy, I tried to kick his ass. I thought it was combat time. And, I'm about 230 pounds, 6'4". And so I thought, man, the cool thing about jiu-jitsu is I thought I was kicking his ass.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, oh, man, I'm doing pretty good. I'm kicking his ass. And then he taps me out with an armbar. And I was like, whoa, that was lucky. You got lucky, dude. And then I started grappling with him again. And then he puts a choke on me and taps me out. And then he just tapped me out like 97 times in a row. And pretty soon, my ego was humbled. I go, oh, Ski. I was going to cuss just now, but I was like, holy crap, I don't know anything, and this little guy was kicking the crud out of me, and I said, oh, absolutely, I'm taking this martial art, and so he was real cool, and I totally appreciate what he did for me. I just started coming down and taking classes, and then I met Professor Sauer, and man, the first time I met Professor, that I'll tell you, and to this day, he still is the same way. Very charismatic man, big smile, very loving, kind, caring man. And I instantly knew that I wanted to take lessons from this guy. I was like, oh man, you are the right fit for me. You're the guy that I really want to learn from. So I started, taking lessons from him. And so the very first class, and I want to mention this, the very first class I was in, we learned a lot. I thought fantastic. And then we started that rolling thing again. And he goes, Keith, go against this girl here. And I can't remember what her name was to this day, but she had a blue belt. And I don't know why he paired me with this girl, but he had his reasons. And so I thought, okay, yeah, I'll go against her, just thinking I was this badass. And it wasn't more than 10 seconds, and she put me in an armbar and tapped me out. And she must have weighed like 120 pounds, 130 pounds. And she put me in an armbar, and right then and there I go, whoa, man, if it can work for a girl, it can certainly work for a big dude like me. Yeah. And so after that, I was relentless, James, about taking class. I was there all the time. And, I kind of lived far away, but I would spend lots of time in Salt Lake going to class. And it was on from there. And, I saw Royce Gracie fight in his first, or I guess it was the second one. I don't know, first or second one in UFC is what I'm saying. And, oh, man, when he put Dan Severn in a triangle, I just knew that, man, this stuff, if this little guy could beat up this big guy, this is something awesome. And so, man, I was hooked ever since, and I have not quit to this day. In all these years, I've gone to jiu-jitsu, and I have gotten the crap kicked out of me so many times, I can't believe it. And Professor was the greatest in person to be teaching me, because he taught me that it's not about size and it's not about strength, it's about the technique. And ever since then, I have searched for the proper technique so that I could emulate that girl that tapped me out, that small framed person who could beat up on a big person, and to a certain extent Kazaka Munoz as well. When he did that, I knew that. I'm so glad they tapped me out, because then I learned a valuable lesson that it wasn't really about being big, although being big helps, as you know.
Right.
But, the technique is what we're after.
Well,
so that's how I got my start.
I was going to say
it's just been a
definitely an eye-opening experience.
Yeah, it's an eye-opening experience, absolutely. And then I went back to my kung fu instructor and started showing him some stuff, and he really liked it. I was thinking he was going to poo-poo it, but I think it was something that he liked too. And for one reason or another, not for my choosing or anything like that, he quit teaching. And so I just got the Gracie tapes too and started working those. And, they had those VHS cassette tapes from the Gracie Academy with Horion Gracie and Hoist doing their stuff too. And after he started winning, and then Craig Kuka, some VHS tapes, and I started working those along with what I learned at Professor Sauer's. And that gave me, and man, I want to say this too, James, I was beating the crud out of all of my, all the people that I was grappling with, I thought I was really good again. And that's a big mistake, because you're never really that good until you come along. And it was so new. Jiu-jitsu, I was teaching Dean, and God bless him, Dean went on to get his black belt through Professor Sauer as well. And he died of cancer, I don't know, about 10 years ago. He was a great example. That dude trained even when he had cancer. So it was really a cool thing to see that this dude that met me at Mel Quali's Electronics in Twin Falls, Idaho, to go on and get a black belt before he passed away. And so I felt it was the right time, man. I'm destined to do jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, that's really amazing. It's such a thing where I always tell people I don't believe there are any coincidences, that you ended up in that place and he had that tape and kind of helped set you on that path to your jiu-jitsu journey is pretty cool.
It was ridiculous. It should never have happened, but yet it was. So now I'm always understanding that when you are ready, something will come into your life that will help you. And people will call it, I don't know, the secret. If you've ever heard of that,
Right,
where
yeah.
and I'm a big proponent of that. I really believe it. And then guess what? All through my life of jiu-jitsu now, people like yourself, other people have come into my life to help me out and make my journey a lot better. And hopefully, I've entered somebody's life to help them to become better. But I'm just so excited about jiu-jitsu, as you can probably tell in my voice. It's just a fantastic martial art. I only have one regret, though, James.
What's that?
My regret, and was that I started when I was 24. I wish that I had started when I was 8 years old or something like that. And I look at guys today who are starting as young men and women, and boy, they just have a leg up on everything because they got to start it a lot sooner than I did. And so I wish I could go back in time and maybe go to Brazil or something like that. But hey, it happens for a reason, and
Exactly.
that's cool with me.
So I understand a couple exciting things have happened here recently. You received your third-degree promotion not too long ago.
Yeah, just like you, I'm a professor now, man. Can you believe that?
That is awesome.
Holy moly! I'm watching these videos, going, oh, I can't wait until I'm a black belt, just like Hoist Gracie. And now I'm a professor in jiu-jitsu. It's been, other than my wife and my kid, it's one of the finest accomplishments that, finest things that have happened in my life. So
now, under Professor Sauer's association, you have to receive a third degree in order to be considered a professor, correct?
Yes. In a lot of associations, it's second degree, but it's Professor Sauer, or Master Sauer, excuse me. I've interchanged those. It's third degree. So, boy, it's a long haul in the Pedro Sauer Association, but it's great because I'm going to say this. I have never met a Pedro Sauer black belt that wasn't super detailed and a master in at least teaching jiu-jitsu and grappling too. I mean, but for the most part, what we represent in the Pedro Sauer Association is awesome instruction. And that comes down from professor as well, because we want to make jiu-jitsu is a serious thing, James, as you know.
Definitely.
And it's not to be trifled with, and it's not to be taken lightly, and it's not to be taught lightly. It is a wonderful, beautiful thing that we have to do. We have to go and give as much as we possibly can to give that knowledge to our students and make them masters as well.
Definitely. It's like I say, there's no shortage of mediocre jiu-jitsu schools out there, so we have to be the ones who try to keep it strong and as close to the source as possible and keep that high standard going.
Absolutely. And that's what I told my students. I say, hey, we when I'm long gone and you're teaching jiu-jitsu, I want you to keep the ideals and the fundamentals of Professor Sauer, of Rickson Gracie, and most importantly of Grandmaster Elio Gracie and Grandmaster Carlos Gracie as well. There's a huge division in those two, but in the two camps, so to speak. But they had high levels of jiu-jitsu, and they totally cared. And that's what I'm going to do too, giving the best instruction I possibly can to my students.
That's awesome. And along the same lines of talking about promotions, I understand you just promoted your first 3 black belts.
Yeah, this is another thing that's been amazing to me, is that yesterday I promoted my first black belts, 3 of them, Tren Long, Matt Owen, and his son Dylan Owen. And these guys are, I think, man, I learn stuff from them all the time. And they've gone on, I'm primarily known as a self-defense instructor. Well, my black belts have gone on and just killed it in tournaments, man. They go to tournaments too and like Matt Owen's like a 5-time Grappler's Quest champion. He's just, Tren, and I think everybody will say this at my school, Tren Long is my best student that I have, and that guy is a freaking killer. and he's won lots of stuff too. And if you look on my wall, they gave me all their medals. That was nice of them. They gave me all their medals to put up, and I've got all these medals on my wall, and they belong to 3 people. And it's just a ton of them, and they've so I'm very proud of that fact that we can do self-defense as well as tournaments as well, and succeed at them.
Yeah, definitely. So I understand that you just relaunched your bjjmoves.com website. Could
Yes.
maybe you tell us a little bit about that and kind of the direction that's going in?
Well, at the risk of having a shameless plug right now,
go for it.
I really I was big into the download video thing for a long time, and then I kind of moved away from that, and I decided, you know what, I'd like to relaunch BJJ Moves. That was my personal website, and I decided that I wanted to relaunch that. And the reason that I did was first to make some money, of course. They say that money is like blood. It's not the reason for life, but without it, life cannot exist. Right. That's never been far from my mind. So I got to make a living. But my whole focus in BJJ Moves is to get black belts who want to be known or who might want to do more seminars into the public eye. It's really hard. You tell me, James. I think it's really hard to get well known in jiu-jitsu anymore. There are so many black belts out there. There's so many sites, and there's so much social media that a lot of times it's hard for really, really good black belts to become known and get your name out there. And I was like, you know what? I want to make this site for, famous guys too, but regular dudes, regular black belts who have something to offer regular students to become better at jiu-jitsu. And so that's what I've done. And I appreciate you being on BJJ Moves too. The first person I thought of to be on BJJ Moves was you. I said, oh man, I'm going to have James Foster on there because, you're my friend, first of all, but secondly, you have great jiu-jitsu, and I really admire your instructor, Jiva. And so I said, oh, I got to have James on there as well. Even though, you're a very well-known guy, you set a good example, and I'm only putting people on there who I feel set a good example. If you're somebody that I just don't think has good character, I might probably not going to put you on there. So character means a lot to me.
That's awesome because that goes back to what we talked about. It's just another aspect of keeping that standard high in the jiu-jitsu community.
Keeping that standard high. And there are a lot. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings by this, but there are a lot of people out there in the jiu-jitsu world who are a bunch of scumbags, and they're dishonest, and they don't set a good example. And I understand, tapping people out is important and being tough is important. I absolutely agree with that. But you know what? Having a good attitude and setting a good example is the other half of that component, because you're going to have lots of students, and I personally don't want you to be an instructor that sets a bad example where you can steal from people or hurt other people, and a lot of examples of instructors who might not be the best as far as their attitude and their and what they preach to their students.
Yeah, definitely. It's not our sport's not immune to it, just like anything else. And but I think that's really good that you've sought out people, even if they aren't maybe the biggest name, and given that spotlight on your site, because it's going to allow people to see some really quality jiu-jitsu, and maybe from somebody that they hadn't really heard of before. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and I really think that jiu-jitsu, there's so many instructors out there with so many neat tricks and tips that, especially that I've seen in these videos that are now on BJJ Moves, that, man, it's just exciting to learn. Let me take a moment, though. I want to congratulate you on your world championship, too. I want to just say that publicly, dude. That was a huge accomplishment, being a world masters champion. So, congratulations, man. I'm kind of jealous, but I'm very happy for you, actually.
I appreciate it, man. That means a lot coming from you, and it was a lot of hard work, but definitely worth it. Now I just gotta get myself back in shape because I've been, cheating on the diet a little bit ever since. It's too much celebration.
Too many Doritos, bro.
That's awesome. So it's just bjjmoves.com is where people can
Yeah,
go to check out the site, right?
you bet. bjjmoves.com. And what we're going to be doing too is I'm adding not just videos, but I'm going to be adding pictures because in my heart I went, you know what? I want to teach the brand new guys, the white belts, how to have good technique. So we're doing pictures and we're putting captions on them too, so they understand positions and everything, so that the brand new guys can at least go there and get a base. And then if they want to buy videos, fantastic. But offer them something else that they don't have to pay for, but they can just go and get their game better, because that's important. And a lot of people don't have black belts like you know, who are teaching class. Man, this jiu-jitsu in the 20 years is still brand new, and there are a lot of people in Kansas or Nebraska somewhere that might not have an instructor, and I think this will help.
Now, you do a lot of seminars traveling all across the U.S. and abroad. Do you have any big plans for 2016 with seminars? You already getting booked up?
Man, I am getting pretty booked up. I still have lots of room, though. I mean, if people wanted to bring me out for a seminar, I have a Team Rhino association called started this in January, and I offer free affiliation to people. And man, I cannot believe how fast that took off. I now have 20 affiliates, and these guys are awesome people. You know, that's one of the first things that it takes to get into the Team Rhino association. Just because it's free, I didn't want to. The idea that I had, and this might be a bad idea, but I don't care. The idea that I had is that there are a lot of people out there that want to start a school or want to get bigger, and maybe they can't afford a lot of the affiliation fees that a lot of these associations have now. You know, some people charge $200, $300 a month for affiliation dues, and I thought to myself, you know what? I don't want to do that. I want to make it easy to get in. The only thing that I really ask people to do is bring me out for a seminar, but also you have to be of good character too. And I do background checks on people, and I get referrals. I don't know if that's the right word, but give me some numbers of people.
Get some references to check in
references. On them. You bet. And I'll call people up. I've done a lot of phone calling about people, because I don't want people who are, want to take advantage or who are lying or making stuff up about what they've done in their life, because we want Team Rhino to, set an example and lead the way. And man, James, I've gotten 20 affiliates in 1 year, and so I'm kind of booked as far as seminars go. They're going to be bringing me out, and I've done a lot of seminars as you do too, and it's pretty awesome. I hate flying though.
Yeah. Traveling, yeah. If we could get the teleportation thing down, we would be good, right?
I was just joking about that the other day. So, man, I can't wait till teleportation happens, where I can just teleport somewhere and not have to get on an airplane and deal with all the crap that you have to. So
definitely. How can people book you if they wanted to bring you out for a seminar?
Well, they can look me up on Facebook if they want to. And I really didn't come on here to, say, hey, book me for a seminar. But if you want to, it's Keith R. Owen at yahoo.com, Keith R. Owen at yahoo.com. And, look me up if you want to. And what I bring into my seminars and what I like to do is, I guess what I want to be known for is not the latest, greatest moves that there are. And I have no problem with the berimbolo or X guard or anything like that. I know that. I practice it. I show my black belts. I'm into that. And that kind of goes against a lot of what self-defense guys do. But I love jiu-jitsu in its total, and I want it. I want to know everything about jiu-jitsu. And but what I bring when I go to seminars and what I see is, the average person doesn't want to learn the berimbolo. They want to know how to get out of side control bottom and what's the best way. They're still on I see the great majority of people are still in that era of, hey, how do I get out of this? And I bring little details on making it easy to get out of side control bottom, getting out of mount. And I all the time, James, I as well as you, I'm sure, get emails and Facebook messages from people going, hey, I used what you showed me at that seminar, and it's been working great. In fact, just about, 30 minutes ago, I got a Facebook message from a black belt who went to one of my seminars, and he was like, man, I can't believe how easy that move is. that you showed. And that's exactly what I tried to bring on the line of like a Henry Akins kind of jiu-jitsu, you know, where he shows the easiest ways along with the Pedro Sauer, really.
Right.
I mean, it's Pedro Sauer jiu-jitsu. It's like, hey, man, let's make this easy and not have 57,000 moves that it takes to get out of something, man. If it's not one or two moves, I don't teach it, man. I want it to be easy. And that doesn't require a lot of athletic ability, because one day we're going to be 70, 80, 90 years old, and we're not going to have that same athletic ability. So we want to be able to, I liken it to, you know, in the old Western where the guys are riding along and all of a sudden they come to a place where there's two cliffs, you know, and they got to go through the pass, so to speak. And all you got to do is wait up at the top of the pass to get these guys, rather than, you know, go out and get them. You know, they come to you and you trick them into it and make it easy. And that's what we want to do in jiu-jitsu, is make it super easy to defend ourselves, first of all, but then go for a submission and not make it where you have to do 900 moves. I got no problem with moves that are super long, but man, when you're fighting somebody of your equal caliber, you only have time in your mind to do one or two simple moves. They're just not going to let you do 15 different things to get into place for your success. You know, they're not out to help you, so got to make it easy.
Exactly. Mentioned something earlier about self-defense and then more sport-based techniques. Would you agree that probably instead of putting labels to things, we should all be trying to train in everything that works versus getting into this labeling and saying you should do one or the other? I think you have the same philosophy as me on that, as far as we should be doing the stuff that works and not closing ourselves off to other opinions and other techniques and things.
Isn't that interesting how we see this in jiu-jitsu? Like I said before, you know, and I'm just going to be straight up, and I feel like a lot of times I'm not liked by a lot of people in the self-defense community, and I'm not liked by a lot of people in the tournament community, because they've labeled themselves this. Oh, I could never do self-defense. That self-defense stuff sucks, and I don't want to do it. Or the self-defense guys are like, oh, the Berimbolo is you know, not what we want to do in self-defense, and they label themselves, you know. And then we get 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu, which I love. 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu. I've stolen so many awesome moves from 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu, and it's so funny because if I go to like a self-defense guy possibly and say something, and I would say, oh, this is from 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu. Oh, yeah, I don't want to see that, you know. And then, but if I'll just go teach the move, I'll go, hey, well, check this out, and then you just do this and you do this, and he goes, oh, wow, that was fantastic. And then I go, yeah, I stole that from 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu. And a lot of times we always think of 10th Planet is, oh, you have to be really flexible and things. And that's true. But they have a lot of little detailed, cool moves that keep people in place, and it's really neat. You just take what you need from that. You just take it's like, hey, this is some food, take some, right? You don't have to have it all. But it's really cool because when you show them those little moves and then tell them where you got it, then they're like, oh, wow. You know, it opens up their mind. And I'm not a 10th Planet practitioner, and I don't necessarily agree with everything they say. However, I take what I need, and I take what I need from lots of different sport guys and a lot of self-defense guys, because I'm thinking about the students. I just want to make it easy for my students and other students to be able to grapple, not having to use strength and not having to use natural athletic ability. I want them to do the easy move that they're going to use to succeed. And quite frankly, James, I do not give a rat's ass where I get it from. And that's kind of, you know, made me, I don't know, at least in my mind, we always think that, you know, people give a crap what, you know, about you. But, you know, I kind of have taken some heat from that. But I always keep in mind one thing, you know, they say when you're a young man, you do not care what anybody, or when you're a young man, you really care what others think, and you're trying to be like everybody else, right? And then when you get middle-aged, you don't give a crap what other people think. And then when you get to be an old man, you realize that nobody was thinking about you anyway.
Right.
And so I keep that I keep that in mind that, we always in our mind go, oh, there's some people that hate me. Yeah, it's not really true. But if you don't like me or you don't like the jiu-jitsu I do, just understand that what I'm trying to do is make it simple, that you can do it in a tournament, you can do it in self-defense, you can do it wherever, so that the average white belt and the blue belt and purple belt can succeed at jiu-jitsu and not quit.
Wouldn't you agree that a lot of the labeling comes just from a marketing perspective of they're trying to say, oh, my way is the best way, as opposed to having that open mind and encouraging people to train in everything that works?
Absolutely. Before I got into jiu-jitsu, I was taking, I have 2 other black belts, one in Kung Fu and then another one in Gong Fu under my instructor, Joe Cals. And Sifu Cals was a student of the late Bruce Lee. And it's really cool because I got to train with what Bruce Lee showed Joseph Cals. And Joe was kind enough to show me. And he was always preaching. Bruce Lee was always preaching to Joe, take what works and throw away what doesn't, for yourself personally. All right. So for yourself personally, what works for me and what works for you, James, because we're big dudes, might not work for a smaller person. So you have to. So when I teach, I don't teach as if like you need to listen to everything I say. I teach in suggestions, and if this suggestion works for you and you take it, it'll and it works out for you, fantastic. If it doesn't, you go, oh, I don't like that. Okay, that's fine. But I find 9 times out of 10 that if you'll do what I tell you to do, because I'm coming from a student perspective and not trying to sell my position in things, that things will work out for everybody, whether you're big or small. It works. And anything that's hard, I disregard. I take it away. I don't know, too hard. I got to have simple. And the simple things are what works. And you're exactly right, man. People, we just have, I don't know, tribes, I guess we call it, or people have teams. And if you're not on my team, you suck.
Right.
And that's a very sad thing. And it's so pervasive in jiu-jitsu, man. The instructor doesn't want to lose students and doesn't want to show his students that there are other people out there with great ideas. And my students come in and, well, let me say this, and I don't mean to just go on, but with YouTube, man, it doesn't matter where you're at, you can go watch videos. I mean, you can watch it on anything you want, man. You can see anybody that you want to see. And what happens is the instructor now, and back in the day, the instructor was like, he has total control over everything and everything he shows, because there was nowhere else to get that knowledge. Well, now you can just watch YouTube, pick up some stuff, and put it in your game if you want to. And the annoying thing, I think, for a lot of instructors is that you'll have your students come in and they're doing something that you never taught. Well, it's because they just picked it up off of a Ryan Hall video or something like that. And I want to say Ryan Hall's awesome. And you can pick up a lot of good moves from that dude. But as an instructor, you can't stop that. So what I try to do is I try to say, hey, you want to bring moves in, maybe we can make them better, or I can learn something. And because I've had plenty of students show me stuff that I didn't know, and I go take it and I go, oh, that's nice. One of my brown belts just like 3 or 4 days ago goes, Mr. Keith, I want to show you this, how to get rid of grabbing your sleeve, a really cool way to do it. And he showed me it, and it blew my mind. I was like, oh, I can't believe I didn't know that. And so I took it, and now I joked with him. I go, man, when I show this at a seminar, people are going to go, wow, Keith Owen is the greatest instructor ever because he had such a cool move. Well, I wasn't born that way, and none of these black belts were born that way, knowing everything about jiu-jitsu. And I love how they pretend like if you aren't learning it from us and exactly what we teach, it sucks and you shouldn't do it. That's not true at all. They're learning all the time. They just want to protect their egos, and they're trying to minimize the influence of other people. And that shouldn't be, man. It's too late. The cat's out of the bag, man. You should, you as an instructor should foster, excuse the, I'm not trying to be pun here. You should foster the attitude that, hey, we're all trying to learn. And my students, I don't look at them as you are my student and I'll tell you exactly. I'm trying to create, I like to call it mad scientists in jiu-jitsu who are experimenting and trying new moves and trying things that work for them. And I don't see that an awful lot, and that's sad, but I don't care, because I just want my guys to be awesome and know that they can add anything to their game that they want to. And you know what? Professor Sauer has been awesome at that. He has been totally supportive of everything that I do. And it's really cool because he's helped me to grow and to become a better jiu-jitsu instructor. But every time I go to a Pedro Sauer seminar, man, he just shows some simple, easy stuff that just, again, blows my mind. And I go, wow, I can't believe that. It's like, for me personally, it's almost like, wow, I don't need another instructor if I have Professor Sauer close by me, because this guy just knows. And he wasn't born that way. He comes up with moves all the time. He's inventing stuff, and that's the cool thing.
He's amazing, and I think a lot of that comes from having that openness and not trying to carry that mystique. I call it the black belt mystique. A lot of the instructors want to appear to their students as if they are invulnerable or they know everything, and they kind of close themselves off to that knowledge and really limit their overall growth in jiu-jitsu. And
it's real sad. And then I'll have students from other associations who go, oh, I didn't know that, just a simple kind of move, and it's nothing against them. It's just, man, let people create and learn, and it will make jiu-jitsu grow better. Jiu-jitsu is so cool. It's so much growth.
I talk to my students about that in regard to instructors rolling with their students and how they approach rolling with them. I've only trained with my students I would say over 99.8% of the time in my time as an instructor and my time as a black belt. It's not like I've done all training camps and brought people in to get me ready for tournaments. I've just been training with my guys that I always train with. But I posed it to them. I said, how can I go and win this championship just training with my students and not bringing in these world-class guys? And I explained to them about how I put myself in bad spots and make myself work, and I don't need to always tap them. I don't need to always keep them from tapping me, because we both become better if we have that approach to training and learning, to where we're trying things and putting ourselves in bad spots. So I know you talk a lot about that, and how you approach rolling, and also how you tell people to approach training with a child's mind, which I thought was really cool, being open to the knowledge.
Yeah. I enjoy rolling with you, James. Just to be honest, we've grappled a few times, and man, you're a huge dude, and I thought I was a huge dude, but it really puts me on my defense, and thank God that I've worked on my defense. Otherwise, I would be getting tapped all over the place. And what we see in jiu-jitsu a lot of times is about the submission is the important thing. Submitting people, right? And they'll talk about that, and you'll go to, if you just visit schools, and everybody is always submission focused, and I don't think that should be it. And now, submission is the key. I mean, we want to submit people. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
That's the goal. All right. However, if you, just like in basketball, if your defense sucks, you could score lots of points, and it's not really going to matter. Your goal is, I personally believe, for everybody from white belt on, that your defense needs to be really solid. You need to be able to protect yourself. And if you disagree with me, it is okay, because one day, if you make it that far to 70 years old, you'll be having these aggressive 21-year-olds who are trying to take your head off. And if you've never practiced, your defense as well, if your defense isn't as good, you're going to find that these dudes are tapping you out. And I got to tell you, that can be pretty embarrassing and very hard on an ego of a black belt who's been training for numerous years, but has just gotten older, and maybe they've lost a step. And jiu-jitsu is a lifetime commitment. It's not just for when you're 25 or 30 or when you're in your prime. It's for your entire life. Elio Gracie grappled, I should say, when he was 90 years old. Was he as good as when he was in his 30s or 20s? No. But you know what? that defense was super important. And if you don't practice with a child's mind, and this is what I try to tell people, you need to go into jiu-jitsu not going, I am going to kill you. I'm going to run. Yeah, and you can do that. I mean, every once in a while, once a week, go in there and go, I'm tapping everybody out. That's fantastic. But if you do that every single time, James, first thing that's going to happen is you're going to get injured. You're going to bust a knee. You're going to bust a shoulder because you are having an Abu Dhabi death match every single day, and you are not going to make it till you're 70. So learning the right time to attack is I think, the important thing. Well, how do you do that? Well, you need to go in with a child's mind. And what do I mean by that? Is that children, their ego isn't as big as adults. Adult men especially, can't lose. They have this attitude, well, if I lose, I'm somehow less of a person. But in my kids' class, I watch them, and they're just having a great time. They get submitted, they smile, they keep going, and they start over again. And that's the attitude that you need to have, is that I'm here to play and have a good time. And you should spend a good quality of your time training and putting yourself in bad spots, especially at purple belt and above. And we could talk about blue belt and all of that. They might not just listen, but you know what? When you get to be a purple belt, your defense better be pretty good. I mean, it really is, because you're going to be going against higher brown belts and things like that, and you need to be able to defend first. But you also need to find the right time to attack, because most people go on, and Americans especially are bad at that, James. We go, right, attack. That's it. And then when you're getting tuned up, you just don't know what to do. You see that in MMA all the time, where not so much anymore, but I don't know, 5-10 years ago, guys would get mounted on an MMA and then they couldn't get the guy off of them. And I was always going, man, you can't get a dude off of you?
It's funny you mentioned that, because did you see the fights, was that last weekend or weekend before last, with Chris Weidman and Luke Rockhold?
Yes, I did.
So, I mean,
yes, I did.
Granted that Rockhold's very good on the ground, but Weidman's also supposed to be good, and it kind of, when he was on his back, he looked a little bit like a fish out of water there. I'm sure there were maybe other factors. He was hurt from the punches, which changes things a lot, but
yeah,
kind of didn't even try to bridge or anything from there.
Yeah, and I'm not going to criticize anybody specifically. I'm just saying that a lot of MMA fighters, and I'm just going to pick on MMA, but this could be jiu-jitsu too, that why spend so much time on defense when I need to spend time on offense to get people? And that is what people will disagree with me on. We need to spend time in defense. Well, that's fantastic, but let them try to take on James Foster, who might be just a little bit bigger than them with awesome technique. They're going to find themselves on the bottom of that whole mess and trying to defend themselves. And if their defense isn't up to par, man, they're going to find themselves into trouble. So I'm not saying that defense isn't or offense isn't important, but there's a right time. Protect yourself, and when you see your opportunity, then you go on the attack. But this was me up until purple belt. I'm going to tell you what, just from a big guy's perspective, what I was all about from white to purple. And granted, at the time, there wasn't a lot of jiu-jitsu out there, but I had it in my mind. And Professor, this is not his fault, because he would tell me, oh, be more defensive. Yeah, whatever, Professor, great. I'm going to go out there, and I'm kicking the crap out of people. And what would happen was, when we slapped hands and started going, I would try to push you down and get on top of you. That was my goal right off the bat. There was never any of this guard crap. I wasn't doing any of that. I'd jump on you, and I'd end up in the guard, and I became really awesome at passing the guard. And then I would get side control, and then I would do my tired, crappy Americana offense that I was doing, because I didn't want to let the guy go. And I would never really try to attack an armbar so much, because I was always afraid that if I attacked the armbar and it didn't work, I would end up on the bottom.
Right.
And it was seriously, I'm just speaking for me. I know nobody else out there has that problem, but I was speaking for me, that I would not go for that armbar, because I was so afraid that if I ended up on the bottom, it was just so hard to get back to the original on top. Yeah, I could armbar somebody from the guard. No way. And it finally dawned on me that I was a one-dimensional jiu-jitsu fighter. I was one-dimensional. I did the same old tired crap all the time. And what happens is, Professor always says that jiu-jitsu happens on the bottom. When you're on the bottom in the guard, working your guard, that's when you really know jiu-jitsu, and where you get that hip movement going really well, that when you're on the top, you really have a well-defined hip movement so that you can attack the top. And I went, okay, I'm going to be on the bottom now. And from that point on, I am always on the bottom. People are always like, think I'm making fun of them because I'll just fall over and let you get on top of me. And they think I'm insulting them. But I always tell people, James, that the lucky guy is on the bottom. If you're on the bottom, that is where you're going to get the most benefit. And if I can sweep you or choke you out or do something from the bottom, great. But everything, for me personally, happens on the bottom game because I want my bottom game to be good because I'll tell you, man, having guys on top of you can lead to claustrophobia and not being able to deal with that, and you just want to quit. And now it's like, crush me down. It's okay. I've been through this 9,000 times, and I don't have that fear anymore of anything like that. And my bottom game has gotten pretty good. And I want to say I'm constantly evaluating myself in jiu-jitsu, even at my advanced age of 46. How can I get better? And, the other day I said, you know what? My guard game has gotten a little stale. I need to improve that. My side control game, side control bottom, I like it. I feel pretty comfortable with that, at least for the fact of not getting caught by anybody. But my guard game needs to be improved on. So therefore, I am going to be working my guard game a lot more to get it back to where it once was. But we big guys will be like, yeah, whatever. I'll do the bottom game some other time. I just want to win. And when you have that attitude in training that you just want to win, you're going to try to get on top and do that tired old crap. And out on the street, yeah, get on top. In MMA, you bet, get on top. But when you're in the academy, you should be having that, like I said, that child's mind and working your bottom game and having a good time and playing. And you will be so surprised. And you know this, so happy that you're able to kick people's ass without really trying. That is the coolest thing in jiu-jitsu, that people are looking at you and go, holy man, how did you do that to me? And I have no ego when it comes to getting submitted, man. People, if you're going to submit me, okay. But I put myself in bad spots. I can't believe how many times I have put myself in somebody's armbar, just so I can work out of it. And sometimes I get caught, man.
Yep,
I get caught. Here. And I don't care. Keith Owen sucks, man. I rolled with him, and God, he sucks. That's fine. I don't care what you say about me. I know I'm just trying to work my game better against various people. And man, I've rolled with lots of black belts, lots of brown belts, and I love putting myself in bad spots with those guys just to see if I can get out. And it's cool because they have a hard time getting me, man.
I think it's funny that a lot of times their ego won't allow them, or people's egos won't allow them to put themselves in those bad spots. And on the other side of the coin, their ego gets insulted if you put yourself in there, and they're like, hey, come on, man, like I'm not that bad. Why are you just laying down and let me get you in side control? And it's because we just want to go there and work. But they actually
right.
Sometimes they legitimately get upset. I've had a couple visitors from out of town before, and maybe a brown or a black belt, and I just let the guy get me in side control so I could work my escapes, and he was like really offended about it, and I thought that was kind of funny.
I completely agree. And maybe it's that we're professors now, and we see the real truth, and we don't have to prove anything, and we don't have that ego, and we know that we're getting older. But it's still pervasive in jiu-jitsu that it's all about the win. Death matches every time, and then we wonder why the guys we train with are hurt and have to have that operation or whatever. It's because they just go, thinking that that's the idea, and it is. I'm not going to lie, but it's also about having a well-rounded game of submissions and escapes, so that when you're grappling with somebody, they can't get you, but you can get them. And that's what we're trying to do. And then the reverse side of that, though, is if you work too much on your defense and not enough on your offense, then you become a guy that just never gets caught but never submits anybody. And I'm not saying that either. But I'm just saying that the most important thing is your defense first, and then with your offense. And so what I do personally is, as an older man, and I do not want to get hurt, man. That is my enemy. I don't want to go to class and get hurt. So one time a week, I go in my mind, I go, okay, today's the day I kick everybody's ass. I don't give you credit if you're a white belt, blue belt, whatever, you're getting tapped out, and I try to go for it. But most of the time it's like, I just want to train light, have a fun time, not get hurt. And it works out great for me because I don't get injured too often, and I always, I want to say this, I feel like I'm rambling on, but I'm just excited, as you can tell. One of the things that I always do when I go to class, without fail, is before I start grappling, I say to myself, this could be the day that you get injured. I keep injury in the forefront of my mind, and because it seems like the times you get hurt was when you weren't prepared for that, and you weren't thinking you were going to get hurt, right? You don't think about those things.
Totally.
But in your mind, I go, today's the day that I could be hurt, and when I think that, then I always protect myself at all times. Because it's just real easy for someone to accidentally hurt you or do something. And I'm always thinking of myself, protecting myself. And secondly, I'm always protecting my partner. If we were rolling and I'm doing something, I would never do anything that requires me to go berserk on somebody, where I do something just like I'm not thinking of any consequences. It's because I don't want to injure my partner. Because I'll tell you what, it's really embarrassing when you're a black belt and you hurt somebody. And, they look at you, why did you hurt me like that? Sorry, didn't mean to, but I just feel it's up to me to protect my partner too. Not everybody thinks that. They could care less in the school if they hurt their partner. They just want to win. And man, then they wonder why this guy doesn't come back and why he had to have surgery. Oh, it's just genetic weakness, and it's like they practice the Klingonian way of jiu-jitsu, right? You got to kill the guy in front of you to get his belt. And that's not the case at all. And there's a lot of people that'll disagree with me on that because they'll disagree with me on a lot of things, but I find it works great, and it works for me, and it works for my students. And I know that in my school we have very limited injuries, knock on wood, and people aren't getting hurt. And it's great for me as a business owner, but it's also great for me as an instructor because it means I'm teaching them the right way to do jiu-jitsu. And really, I'm teaching them the right way to do jiu-jitsu because we always have to assume that everybody is bigger and stronger than us. That's what I try to preach. And I know that when we go to tournaments, they're in our weight class, they're in our belt rank. And that's the difference between the tournament idea and the self-defense idea. We in self-defense always assume everybody's bigger and stronger. Well, when you do that, you're not going to have your way necessarily with a big, huge guy. And if so, they need to go to your school and roll with you. This 130-pound killer, I'll kill everybody, I'll tap everybody. And then he wonders why he just got squanched by you or me and can't move. Well, what are you going to do now, dude, when you're going against a big, huge biker guy out on the street who's so strong and wants to kill you? You might have some trouble there. Yeah. And so we want to. I always try to come from that attitude of that where everybody's bigger and stronger. And when you do that, the technique sets in, and then it doesn't matter that you're smaller or bigger or whatever. I think kind of being bigger might be a detriment. I don't know. You tell me. It could be a detriment sometimes because we want to rely on bigness. Well, that's not. How do you teach that to a 130-pound, 110-pound girl?
Yeah, it can be a detriment if you're big and you refuse to use technique or be technical or refuse to put yourself in the bad spots. It definitely can be a detriment to your game.
Yeah, like I said, you're going to get to, if you stay in jiu-jitsu and you're going to get to be 70, you're going to need your defense, man. You're going to need that because you're not going to be the same kind of guy. And Professor Sauer always tells me I don't know, he must have told me this 10 times, that he goes to Brazil and he sees black belts. They get their black belt, and then they get to be about middle age, 46, getting on there to 50, and then they suddenly retire from jiu-jitsu.
Yeah,
and they retire from jiu-jitsu because that purple belt, that 21-year-old purple belt's handing him his ass, and they get frustrated, like, how come this doesn't work? How come they're not as good anymore? Well, it's because you're having this attitude of I have to submit everybody all the time. And that's not really the case. It's get your defense good, and then those submissions will come, not the other way around, man.
I think one of the most eye-opening stories that I heard Professor or Master Sauer tell was about how when he got his black belt, there was about 30 other people that received their black belts at the same time. And he said out of those 30, he's the only one still actively training and teaching nowadays. So they all quit.
They all quit, and It's too bad because you can train when you're 70 or 80. I'm telling you, I've seen it. And I want to be there. I don't want to have to retire. I don't want to retire. And I don't want people to go, oh, wow, he sucks as a black belt. If I'm 70 and you can't get me, okay, I'll take that.
Yeah.
You're this testosterone, purple belt 21-year-old kid going, I killed the master today. Well, bring that on because you're going to have some trouble, man. I'm going to frustrate you at every turn. And then when I see my time, I'm going to get you.
Yeah, exactly.
Professor Sauer called.
Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt you, James.
No problem.
Professor, I always call him Professor. If I were talking to him now, he's my professor, right?
Yep.
And he's not a professor. He's the professor. That's what we call him. And Master Sauer talks about the mousetrap. Do you see a mousetrap chasing after the mice? I mean, is it running after them? No. What you do with the mousetrap is you set it in the corner and put some cheese in it, and you just leave it there. And pretty soon the mouse comes along and he looks and goes, oh, this looks easy. Wow, this is a free meal. And he goes and smells the cheese, and then he goes and just takes a bite, and then all of a sudden the trap shuts on him. And when you're an older guy, you're going to need to be a mousetrap instead of having this attitude that the mousetrap has to chase after the mouse, because you'll never catch a mouse, man. That's tough unless you lead it in with something. And that's what I think older people need to realize. If you're going to do jiu-jitsu when you're old. If you're not, you're going to be 21. If I were teaching MMA and I was saying, hey, you're a 21-year-old in a fight, I would just teach you how to go beat people up and go hard, and because I'm figuring you're not going to be around in about 5 or 6 years. You're going to get hurt, and I'm joking about that, but if you're going to be a master of jiu-jitsu, you have to learn those fundamentals and your defense and get those awesome, and then you will have no problem in jiu-jitsu that you can do it for the rest of your life without getting hurt.
Yeah, and that's the goal. We want everybody to be able to train the rest of their life, and I think the ultimate goal for people shouldn't be what belt they're going to get or necessarily just making it to black belt. It should be striving for ultimate mastery, like complete mastery of jiu-jitsu, which you and I both know none of us are ever going to attain, no matter how long we train.
Yes.
But I think that should be the goal instead of placing so much weight on what color belt we are and how many people's butts we can kick.
Yeah, well, you're going to be a black belt the longest, so don't worry. Just get good, and that black belt will show up, and then you'll be a black belt the rest of the guy that retires because everybody's handing it to you.
Right.
What did you learn in jiu-jitsu? You didn't learn anything, man. You didn't learn jiu-jitsu. You just learned how to muscle people around and submit them. That's not jiu-jitsu.
So one last thing I wanted to touch on here, I appreciate you staying on here for so long. I mean, this is all awesome stuff for people to hear. Hopefully some people get some good little gems to take away and actually start applying some of the things we've been talking about. How do you help a student? I have a lot of students ask, a lot of people message me on Facebook and about how to approach ending up in a training plateau to just where they feel stagnant, like they're not getting any better. What would your advice be to someone who's dealing with that?
Well, welcome to jiu-jitsu, my friend, because I know as well as you do that plateaus are going to happen. I mean, you're going to have those happen to you, and I always get excited when I hit a plateau. Personally, it's a psychological thing. And plateaus, I believe, typically mean that something in your fundamentals is wrong. And you can see this when you're like a purple belt and you just roll with white belts all the time. You're picking white belts to roll with, and you can get away with doing crappy things that aren't really going to work on higher belts. That what happens is you don't see that that's happening, and you don't have the finest technique, so you're just getting away with stuff. And then you go against somebody who's a higher belt, and holy crud, and then you're frustrated, like, man, how come I'm not really improving, especially against guys your own belt level. And if you're doing fundamentals right, if you look back and go, what are my fundamentals right? When I hit a plateau, and me personally, and I do, man, I hit a plateau, it's like, man, I need to get better here. I always celebrate it because and for some weird reason, I know that I'm about to make a jump up. But we always sit as a plateau like, oh, I'm down. Your brain is just rearranging things and you're going to jump up, I assure you. If you'll just come to class, keep working and work on those fundamentals, you will see that progress. You will see this. But what they're really saying is, oh, I can't sub people as fast as I want to. And, that's not really how jiu-jitsu works. You're sometimes, I always joke and say, sometimes you're the dog and sometimes you're the fire hydrant when you train.
Definitely.
And when you're the fire hydrant, you just go, hey, what am I doing? I got to look at my game. But I always think, man, that's exciting. I'm plateauing right now. I know I'm going to jump up. And you know what? I always do. I always do. Why? Because I come to class and I try to, I never take white belts for granted. I do everything perfectly against a white belt. And I always yell at myself if I do something that just I got away with it. You get away with it. I always go, no, that wasn't good technique. I'm constantly judging myself. And plateaus are going to happen. Deal with it. That's the ego thing. Quit trying to win all the time. Try to get better, and you will see it's going to happen. But it beats you, man. Jiu-jitsu beats you down. It rips out your ego, and that's why you see a lot of black belts who are very humble people. They know at any time they could get tapped out, even at a black belt level. They don't want to admit it, but it's the way it is. So. Rejoice in your plateaus, man. Just keep coming to class. Shut up and keep training. Get tapped out then. Work a position.
Yeah, and I find a lot of times people that are in plateaus, it's a lot of times because they're trying too hard to make a certain area of their game work, and they're missing all the other options that are staring them in the face. They kind of get locked into a certain mindset about what they need to accomplish during the roll, and it kind of takes away the freedom of the creativity and things that we have when we are rolling. And I see that put people in plateaus a lot of times.
Yeah. They think about going through things too much instead of going around things.
Exactly.
When you come to somebody stopping you, think about going around it or changing something and going somewhere else rather than, no way, dude, you're not stopping me from this. I'm going to get this move. And then they're frustrated because, wow, a guy kind of figured you out. He's been grappling with you for a long time, and he knows all the things you're going to do, and you're not growing. And maybe you're a little, you're lazy on your technique. Like I said, your fundamentals aren't there, and then he sweeps you or he taps you, and it's a very humbling experience. I joke I haven't said this very often, but jiu-jitsu is like a very beautiful, stunningly beautiful woman. And, you see her and you go, wow, she is so beautiful. And then she becomes your girlfriend. And then after a while, you start to take her for granted. Oh, yeah, I don't need to go see her. I don't need to talk to her. I don't need to call her. And then one day she hits you with a frying pan. And that kind of sums it up for you. That don't take jiu-jitsu for granted, man. Don't say, oh, I've got it mastered. I am so good at jiu-jitsu. No, you're not good at jiu-jitsu. You're lucky that you've made it this far in jiu-jitsu, and you're gonna have more problems. So treat it with respect and treat it like it's the wonderful thing it is, and just know that there are going to be issues. But don't mistreat it where you take it for granted and then it hits you with a frying pan, and that means you're gonna get submitted.
I always tell everybody you come up with the best analogies related to jiu-jitsu.
Well, again, Master Sauer has these awesome analogies, and I just steal from him. I just take his stuff, or I make up my own, but it's in the vein of what he teaches, so I'm very lucky about that. So.
Yeah, analogies are great to help people remember these principles. And also, I think, a lot of people, we talked about 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu a little bit earlier, and a lot of people bash on Eddie Bravo for naming all the techniques and giving them these crazy names, but man, it sure makes it so people remember it. It sure makes it easier for his students to learn the positions, and kind of creates a whole system out of it. So I have to give him props for that. It's very smart.
Try that in your kids' class. Just name whatever moves.
Yeah, I do that. They love it.
I was just teaching my kids' class the other day, and I stopped everybody and I brought them over because I felt like people were passing the guard tuis, and I started talking about, hey, you need to get your octopus. I was telling this to the kids, get your octopus tentacles and I was showing them the hooks and everything like that, and demonstrating. Yeah, see, you get your tentacles involved, and then I brought them back again, and I named this, where you put your foot on their biceps and stuff.
Right.
And I needed a name, and I just off the cuff of my head, I just joking, going, okay, we're gonna call this Trick or Treat. And they were like, trick or treat, what does that mean? And I go, smell my feet. And then I was putting my feet in that guy's face and on his shoulders and everything like that. So you got just showing them. And then they went out and started doing it. And it was really cool, and I would yell, trick or treat, and the kids would yell, smell my feet. But they would do it. And it's, that really works good. Although my names are really stupid. He has cool names, Eddie Bravo does. I have stupid names, and people laugh at me. But, hey, man, the kids remember it, and the adults do too. So
you want to know what's funny? You say they have stupid names, but I was watching a documentary about. You ever seen those people that do the memory competitions where they have to memorize things?
Yes.
And they'll literally memorize a whole book word for word and recite it back. And one of the techniques they use is a word association. And they said usually the most silly, stupid, or a lot of times the most vulgar association they can make, for whatever reason, it helps you remember it better. So I think maybe
absolutely.
I think maybe even the sillier the name, the better.
Well, let me say this just real fast. Horion Gracie, way back in 1997 or something like that, I don't know. He and Hoist were standing there at a seminar that I was attending, and there was 90 people in the seminar. And I don't know what they were doing, but they were working on name association, trying to get everybody's names. It was something that they were doing at the time. And they go, okay, I want you to tell us your name, and we're going to walk around, and you tell us your name, and we're going to come back, and we're going to tell you your name. And there were 90 people in the room. And I told them my name's Keith, and then went on to this person, and then they started over, and they walked around, and they were telling us our name, and they came to my name, and they said my name, and I was like, holy crud, man. And I know they were playing that word association game. I don't want to know what they associated me with, but they were doing that. And then I picked up on that, and I've always understand that naming things, no matter how stupid, and a lot of my techniques are named something stupid, simply because if we're at a tournament, I can say that stupid name and nobody's going to know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I use it as
another benefit.
As a tournament device, and it just works great. My students learn rather quickly by that.
Now, Keith, are you open to having visitors at your academy? I know some places can be a little weird about that, but you allow drop-ins from out of town and locally, and if you do you charge people for that, or you just let them come in and have a good time?
Well, I love drop-ins. If you're a cool guy, come in. Cool gal, come in. If you're a jerk, I don't like drop-ins. But we just want nice people. And you can come in and beat up on my guys all you want. If you're that good and you can tap them out, I love it. Because I want them to have other body types to grapple with. So I really enjoy it when other people come in. And I don't care either way. My ego does not. I've had guys come in and just kill my guys. But most of the time, 80-90% of the time, my guys do great against visitors. And I have no problem with it. And I can see other schools do, because they don't want their students beat up. And then you go, oh, my instructor isn't teaching me something. This guy's traveling for a reason.
Right.
Have him come in and tune everybody up. It's good for everybody. And I do charge a drop-in fee. I charge just $15, but I don't necessarily give. I spent 20 plus years learning jiu-jitsu. I'm not going to give it away for free. So, I got a business to run. So if you're coming into my school, it's going to cost you $15 to come in, but you're going to have a great time, and we're not going to get you hurt. And I tell you, 99% of the time, James, if you come in, drop in at my school, you are going to leave as a brother or sister of our school. I cannot believe how many people I still keep in contact with who visited my school. They've become a brother of our school. And they always come back because they know that they are completely welcome and they're treated with the utmost respect. And they just love that, because a lot of times they may not even get it at their own school. So
yeah,
the brotherhood is big at our school. We just want guys to come in and try and kick our ass. If you think you can, come and do it. And if you can, great. It's good for us.
It's a great feeling, though, to have that kind of reputation in the community where people do come in and become a part of your extended family.
Yeah, but Boise, Idaho isn't necessarily a destination that too many people come to. So if I
Hey,
lived in Vegas, it would be a lot easier. But
well, I'm
you
gonna
know,
tell everybody right now. I was there a few months back, and it's beautiful. I definitely encourage anybody to go there. And Keith, you have a beautiful academy, one of the nicer academies I've been to in all my travels. So I definitely
thank you.
encourage everybody to come there. And
I appreciate it.
I have one last question for you. Is when are you going to come out and visit my academy?
Well, that you gotta invite me out, bro.
Gotta
So
do I gotta open up the checkbook?
uh, we'll talk about that after we get off of this.
Uh-huh.
I would love to get. It's always been on my. I got to come out to James's place, and sometimes I'm over there in Seattle too. So I definitely want to come over there. I know you come to my school, and I totally appreciate that. And we're part of the Black Belt Chain Reaction. We're which I think is really cool because we are black belts from different associations that have all banded together as friends to do seminars. So it's really cool when all of us can go do a seminar somewhere together from a different association. Classy Grappler Pete Wilhelm, Ari Nazon is part of it as well, and we just always have a freaking awesome time when we're together, and that's so much fun in jiu-jitsu. But I do owe you time to come out to your school, and I
I
definitely want to.
I just find it funny that you've been to my house, but you haven't been to my academy.
It's the weirdest thing.
Uh-huh. You even saw the show you roll vault.
Oh my God, the show-you-roll vault. He's got like 9,000 show-you-rolls. It's awesome. It's like, it's creepy kind of, but awesome at the same time, man, that you can have so many gis. And that is, they're just so cool too, man.
Everybody has
I,
their addictions, right?
and I guess show-you-roll is a pretty good addiction compared to like heroin or something like that. So if
Definitely.
that's what you like, man, and you've got a great geek collection. So good for you, dude.
Well, Keith, I know you're a busy man just like myself, and I really appreciate you taking the time tonight to come on and be my guest here and get this podcast off to the right start.
Well, I wish you luck. I have lots of friends that have been talking to me about, hey, can I get on James' podcast too? And I said, oh, talk to James. So you will have no trouble getting awesome black belts to do interviews with, my friend. And I'm just thankful that you let me be the very first one. So
Yes, sir.
thank you, sir.
Well, it's an honor to have you on here, and you have a great evening, and should we say happy holidays, happy non-denominational, or can we say Merry Christmas?
Um, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
All right, there you go. Merry Christmas, brother. Thanks for being on.
You bet. Thank you, James.